Welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Essential Gigi. I'm Gigi, and on today's episode, we are going to discuss relationships and why it's important to have emotionally healthy relationships. I will touch base a little bit on how to start working on those relationships, but I'm going to leave that to other episodes where we can really dive deep into each relationship that I'm going to be talking about today. Thank you so much for all of your feedback for the past 2 episodes. I really appreciate the stories you guys have shared, whether you've messaged me, written, or voice messages. They have been very personal, and I'm very honored that you guys are open enough to share these things with me. A little disclaimer again that the topics that are discussed on the Tough Love podcast are based on my personal and professional experiences and also my interpretation of what I've learned and continue to learn. Emotionally healthy relationships require tough conversations, whether it be a relationship with ourselves, with our body, our food, our family. I personally think that every true, loyal, and valuable relationship will eventually have difficult conversations. But again, like I mentioned before, there's something that has been wired in us that makes it difficult for us to hear and receive tough love or criticism. I think it's also part of being taught to suppress our emotions and our feelings, not talk back to our elders, basically, or ask any questions. And in reality, our curiosity should be explored. We should ask questions and then make our own educated decisions on how we live our life. That is something that I also stand firm on. And I think that's also why I like hearing a lot of people's opinions and different ways of thinking, because I was raised a certain way. I have certain things that were embedded in me. I grew up in a certain place and a certain area and seen certain things, and that shapes my way of thinking. So if somebody has a different perspective, a different point of view, I welcome. I really enjoy hearing other points of views, even if it's something that I still don't agree with, again, at the end. But I do like seeing how other people come up with their conclusions and their decisions. By not being able to explore that curiosity, we are left with a society that doesn't know how to hear tough or difficult conversations, even when it comes from someone we absolutely love and adore, someone we claim to trust their judgment. That is an advice I always give people. Who is giving you the information? Who is telling you to be cautious or, whatever? Who is the person talking to you? Is it someone you consider to trust and value their opinion? Is it someone who also may work in a certain field that may have a biased opinion? Has this person reached their goals in that department of what they're telling you, right? I want us to keep in mind that we have already done the mindfulness exercise, and hopefully it helped us to look inside of ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. We then also wrote down characteristics that helped us describe who we envisioned our higher self to be, and therefore that's going to help us make decisions with this individual in mind. Make the decisions, take the actions that version of our higher self, of who we want to become, how would they make those decisions? What would be their actions to achieve those goals? With relationships, we are going to work on making decisions the higher version of ourselves would make. For me, one of them was being a go-getter. So that means that I shifted my mindset when I'm making decisions about my life as a go-getter, whether it be with my self-care and my goals and my body, my nutrition. I embedded that in myself from a very early on age. And I've always made sure that the little voice inside me thought it was a positive thing. And I continue to exercise that. So, the relationship we have with ourselves, I think, is extremely important. I worked on loving myself first a long time ago. I'm not sure exactly where it came from, where I just never really let people get me down. I had a tough exterior, but I also was known to be a very emotional child and always was told, oh, there you go, crying again. But that was okay with me. That was okay for me to be a crybaby. It felt good to release those emotions. I had a lot of feelings, and I honestly don't know how I would have grown up if I would have gotten in the habit of suppressing those emotions. And so, again, this is not how everybody thinks, but because I do get asked a lot as I'm meeting people and having conversations, or other people when they're going through things, there's something that stands out about me that they're comfortable in asking me, hey, how did you get to where you're at? And so this is me putting it on a podcast, how I think, and I acknowledge that not everybody thinks this way. And so if you can hear it from me, it hasn't been easy, but it has been a huge part just changing my mindset, knowing when I'm hurting. And, I've gone through depression when I was diagnosed with my autoimmunes. Like I felt myself go into these depressions, and I will always let it be known that it was me acknowledging, like, crap, I'm in a place I didn't know I could get. These feelings are so strong, they're so emotional. I need to acknowledge that I'm feeling them. I need to acknowledge that I'm going in this direction, and at the end of the day also acknowledge that I can figure out a way to get myself out of it, even if I didn't know at the time how. Just telling someone. I remember texting my sister and driving to her work, hey, I just need a freaking hug right now. She wouldn't ask questions. I would drive to her work and we would have lunch together. And I think if I wouldn't have came out and told her, she may have not known that I was feeling depressed, because we walk around and we smile, and sometimes we kind of get in this autopilot and we need to tell people. With myself, I've also given myself a lot of rules and guidelines when it came to like dating or being single. I really wanted to be single for a while after certain relationships to rediscover myself, and knowing that some relationships go up and down, make up, break up. And I've never really been that person to break up and make up all the time. I've had relationships where it was 2-4 years straight without any breakups or makeups. I've never been into that emotional yo-yo. And I do also have to give a lot of credit to my mother for taking us to therapy when we were little, letting us understand that therapy is a positive in someone's life, even when things are going good. Life itself is stressful, and it can be overwhelming, especially if it's going good and, something happens that if we are not in a good place mentally and able to handle these things that life might throw at us, it could be a spiral. And so having those guidelines for myself really helped me kind of stay on the right track. And I don't want to say right track, because everything's a journey. There's no right or wrong. There's just going to be more obstacles or hurdles to go through if we don't have certain guidelines, and especially if we don't self-reflect. I'm a big believer. That's one of my characteristics, that I speak into the universe, that I want to be able to self-reflect, and I'm going to change. My opinion is not going to be the same opinion in a year from now, because hopefully I will grow and learn more in that year, and then my opinion might change at that time. So knowing that things are going to change is also a sign of positive growth. Being easy on myself as well has been a really good way, in the sense of like, yes, I will tough love myself, of like, this food item really causes aches and pains. You should not eat that. What are you doing when I'm about to consume that? If I'm working out, hey, you got this, you can go further. Those are the things. But in the sense of I am easy on myself because I know that I'm going to mess up. I'm going to have those moments where I don't discipline myself and I still eat something that's going to cause me pain. And then when it causes me pain, damn it, I'm already in pain. Why am I going to be down on myself? Right? So try to ease that pain and try to make better decisions the next time. Be easy on yourself when you screw up. And for someone who loves being obsessive compulsive, be easy on yourself when things don't go your way, when things don't fall according to plan. I had talked to my therapist in the past about the fact that I plan, the fact that I have lists and charts and I want to stay on schedule for my calendar and things like that. That's not a problem, right? Those are positive characteristics. However, the way I behave when things don't go to plan, when I don't get to check off everything on my list, how does my body react? How do I feel? My emotions, like some of my emotions sometimes are kind of ridiculous. Getting the house deep cleaned and then the kids spill their protein shake everywhere, and then my family comes over and I'm cleaning the walls. Those kinds of things happen, of course, but I have to be careful on how I cry or explode or these negative things that just spiral into the environment. They get me in the worst mood. They cause such a strong stress response in my body that I might trigger a migraine. I might trigger achiness, upset stomach. If my kids are around and they see that, it's not a pleasant experience for them. My husband as well, right? And so if you guys can relate to having someone you love, when they're unhappy, it affects you more than if you're just unhappy at the day, right? If I was just unhappy today, fine. But if my husband gets home and he's unhappy, it makes me even more unhappy for him because we're always looking out for everybody else. So if I react that way, now my husband is worried and unhappy for me. Working on how to respond when those triggers of things don't get checked off. I have to have a priority A of things that absolutely need to get done. And then the priority B that I have to be more flexible because now I'm a mother of 3 kids. I have less time to myself. I have so much going on sometimes that it's unrealistic for me to be that hard on myself when I don't get everything on my checklist done. And so I have to acknowledge some things might not get done, and that goes on my checklist B. That's what I mean about being easy on yourself. Another thing that I noticed that I did a lot as a young age was that I learned from my peers. There were certain things that I would witness with friends, friends running away, or even friends being on drugs at a very, very young age. Something about me just had me learn from people's mistakes around me. My father and mother had a very tough relationship, and I could have gone in the other direction where all my relationships could have been abusive to me and me acknowledge and accept it. But I think every time that happened, my mother would leave my father, but my mom always made the effort to leave my father when he was in these states of being aggressive. That also shaped me and like, no, I will not accept this. I remember my dad being a loving father at times and a loving husband and all these things, but there was other times that were not the best times. And so I remember not wanting to be going back to the same thing over and over when I knew it was wrong. And so I made decisions early on in life to just cut things before they got too intense. Cut boyfriends off before the feelings got too intense. Friendships, even jobs, careers. I've had some careers or jobs that I did the training longer than I was in the actual job because if I knew it wasn't for me, I'm not going to waste that time. I'm going to spend that time doing something else that might get me to where I am going to be happy instead. So that saves a lot of time. I think that saved a lot of my mental sanity. Therapy for sure has helped me. And in our home, we use essential oils so much every single day. Essential oils are extremely good for our system. And I will talk about that a little bit later. They just react with our body chemistry. The oils have properties themselves, right? They interact with our body chemistry and they create a reaction, and that's where you get the feelings of whatever, uplifting, relaxation, things like that. And so we use those a lot at home. Movement also helps us feel better, not only obviously if you start reducing weight and looking better, but it really just releases endorphins, another chemical reaction that our body does to help us feel better and helps our emotional and mental health. Foods can help you feel better. The right foods for our body type and the environment that we're in. Those are some good ways to help ourselves have a better relationship with ourselves. I have always believed that if we don't learn to love ourselves where we are at, by ourselves, and wherever we are at in any situation, then it's going to be really difficult for us to be anywhere and find happiness and things like that. If we can't love ourselves, how will we set boundaries on how people love us? That's very important to me. Our family should definitely be a motivation to loving ourselves, but what do we do when we put our family first? We tend to neglect ourselves, our nutrition, our self-care. We don't make time to work out or meal plan or anything like that. And so it's a ripple effect. We feel sick, we get fatigued, we end up overweight. It's just a never-ending amount of things that happen if we do not take care of ourselves first. And so that version of ourselves, the sick one and tired one and moody one, how is that version of ourselves going to be able to watch our children and grandchildren grow up? In episode 1, I asked you, how would it look like showing up for yourself first? What waking up would look like, what your mood would feel like, your mood towards your kids or work, your partner, the commute to work, and so on. I really like the analogy that some of you may have heard this before about when you fly. If you're flying with children, they ask you to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your children. And that is a safety reason, because if you pass out, then you can't help your children, right? And unless you have older children that understand the oxygen mask situation and all that, chances are little ones do not. And if you pass out, all your kids are passing out and losing oxygen. So you put it on yourself first, and then you put it on your children. That is what self-care is about as well. At the end of the program that we do, my clients absolutely love the self-love, the energy, how their emotions feel. Majority of my clients come for weight loss. The weight loss part of the program is freaking incredible. The amount of weight people lose because we're taking care of not just food, we're taking care of providing the right foods for the body. We're providing self-care. We're providing emotional and mental support that weighs so heavy on us. We're setting the environment perfect for our body to heal and grow and be the best freaking version, the highest version of ourselves. And so, yes, weight loss is the very first thing people in my DMs and emails say. I really am tired of being this way. I need a change. My very first response is, I do more than just weight loss. You have to be prepared to immerse yourself in feeling good, in wanting better quality of life. We are not meant to be achy and in pain and have all of these symptoms all the time. And so by the end of the program, I don't even have to mention anymore that my program is not about weight loss, that my program is about overall holistic health and wellness. Their response at the end is always of how good they feel, that they never thought they would feel so good about themselves, their body image, about where they're going in life, even if they think that they're messing up. It is a wonderful place where they feel good about themselves in life. And of course, at the end of the program, there's new goals, there's new things and a new journey. But I teach them to heal themselves in a way so they're confident that they can continue on this journey. And maybe not alone. We don't always need to do everything alone, but there is resources. We need to know that we can use our resources, that we are not failures because we can't do it alone. We're not failures because we don't know everything, and we're not failures because we don't have all the cool tools and gadgets and all of those things. And that is how we put ourselves first and feel good and have a healthy relationship with ourselves to get there. So, with having a emotionally healthy relationship with myself, that leads to having an emotionally healthy relationship with my body. Even though I've always been a big girl growing up, plus size, part of my family were all big girls. It was always expected of me to be big. But that wasn't my reality once I learned everything that I learned. That also helped me not be ashamed of being a big girl. And maybe not being ashamed of being a big girl kept me as a big girl for a very long time. I was 24 when I decided to make a change. I had just turned 24 when I decided to do a lifestyle change. And that's because I would see family members on these fad diets and going to these clinics and getting all of these prescribed pills or seeds or whatever. Nothing ever really worked. And so I just never thought that it was something for me being a skinny person until I finally felt unhealthy. I was 24 years old and I felt unhealthy. I was really big. I was 250 pounds almost. And my body just was tired. My body was achy. My big girl clothes were ripping and it was time to size up. That's when I was just like, okay, this is not healthy whatsoever. And that's where my lifestyle change started. But it wasn't because I wasn't happy with my body. I would be the chubby girl in the bikinis. Two of the things that I would recommend in having an emotionally healthy relationship with our body is, for one, body positivity. Even when it isn't in the best shape, or we know, we have weight to lose and we haven't done the best, or we haven't been eating and exercising, we should love our body then, because we only have one body. It has carried us in this extra way, even in this crappy environment, feeding it this crappy food, and it's still working for us. That is something to be so grateful for. When I was 250 pounds, so it was in 2010, I also thought about how I got there. Obviously, that sounds like a horrible thing to think about. I'm overweight, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't an unhappy individual, but it made me want to know how I got there. That's the way I think. How did I get to be this big? And there's positive in that answer. Being around food, delicious Mexican food. And so, yes, I needed to make a change, but I wasn't going to shame myself for being a big girl. It's unhealthy to do that. Gratitude has shown, it has been proven that it rewires your nervous system when you show gratitude. So thanking your body for what it has done for you, it has carried you, being able to do those things and have gratitude help you have a positive body image. And if we're not used to that, not all of us wake up saying thank you for this body. But if we want to make that a focal point of our life to achieve a positive body image, let's put those post-its up. Put them up so we have reminders from ourselves to love ourselves. Yes, it sounds corny, but put the post-it up. Love your body. It has carried you so far. It has gone through so much. If we have gone, like for me, I went 24 years abusing my body, then I should love my body and start nurturing and caring for my body. We should love ourselves enough to want to take care of our body. That's what we should do. Now, today, take care of our body. Give it a massage, oil it up, rub your feet, take a bath, whatever that means to you. Let's do it. What are we waiting for? That leads me to the next part two of what I feel is important about having an emotionally healthy relationship with our body is loving our bodies enough to also care enough that we are overweight, care enough that we're in chronic pain, care enough that we have gut issues. And we have to stop enabling these unhealthy habits. We are promoting and encouraging unhealthy lifestyles. And then we're claiming that it's a healthy way of dealing with our emotional and mental wellness. No, toxic foods and chemicals and toxic fragrances are not benefiting our mental health. They're not benefiting our emotions. Episode 2 proves that a lot of these fragrances and things like that are hormone disruptors. So we are causing more emotional damage. We are causing mental issues. We are causing being sad and moody and overweight, inflammation, aches and pains by doing the things society tells us is healthy. Some of those examples is indulging in a spa treatment. You go to the place that sells the fragrances and the dyes in the fragrances and all of these things because that's what marketing is telling us to do. Go get the spa kit. Go get the mani and pedi that is causing you more hurt. And so that's what I mean about society promoting and encouraging unhealthy lifestyles. Because I'm promoting go put one ingredient oil, go dry brush, take a bath, use some one ingredient's essential oils, not a fragrance, an essential oil that was derived from a plant source. The best way to heal is to let go of all the things that are getting us sick. Not everyone likes to hear it, but that's the truth. How do we expect to get healthy if we don't let go of the things that are making us unhealthy? I've had to turn clients away when their mentality is, I'm just not ready for this and I'm just not ready for that. And it's okay. I'm not going to shame you for not being ready. You know, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Nobody's going to force you. It has to come from within you. You have to realize yourself, okay, if I don't drink, I'm going to dehydrate here. And so I've had those tough initial consultations where I understand this is just not going to work out because it's that barrier. We have to shift our mindset first. And I'm so thankful for these podcasts as well, because I feel like now I'll also have somewhere to send those free consultations as well of like, hey, maybe listen to episode 1 and 2, and then we can have a consultation because, you know, it is really a mindset. And these are exercises that I do with my clients as well. Because if we do not change the way we think, if we do not rewire our brain, then we're going to continue to go down the same paths that we have been going that are clearly not working for us. And the reason I know they're not working for us, especially if you're getting a consultation with me, is because we obviously acknowledge that there's a shift we need to make. If you come for a consultation, but then everything that has brought you to this place is what's keeping you there as well, then there will be a change that needs to be made. I hope that makes sense. I hope by this point you have at least decided to love yourself a little differently. Maybe you already do, which is great. We also need to have an emotionally healthy relationship with moving our body. It's important in so many ways. You know, if we work sitting down, we should get up and look around, do some exercises. You can find them online where you look down, look up, look down, look up, look at different things, especially if there's birds. You know, you want to exercise your eyesight that way if you're constantly just looking at a screen. You know, do some office stretches to stretch your back so you're not hunched over. Depending on your fitness level, If you're more advanced, you might have already a fitness routine. I always recommend to consult with the studio and talk to a trainer there so they can get you going on some good exercises. And of course, at least for me, I always recommend to practice proper form. It's always better to work out safely, get the rep done the right way so that you work all those muscles, so that you don't hurt yourself and then have to postpone your workouts for a couple of weeks. And you're going to get the best out of your workout and then start working on doing more repetitions. Then start working on going heavier. But even if you have to drop the weights and practice the movements first so you get the correct form, that it's very important. If you don't move often, try 5 minutes of walking every day. You can start by doing, 5 minutes of walking one day a week and then slowly increase it. The benefits to walking every day for those of us who are able is amazing for our mental and emotional health. If you're disabled or have difficulty with mobility, try sitting outdoors for 5 minutes and just take a few deep breaths, like real deep, nourishing breaths, and that should help your mood as well. And so I want to say this, the lower version of ourselves will be complaining about the extra work, the extra movements, or whatever to get to the higher version of ourselves. But the higher version of ourselves is getting shit done. Again, what were your characteristical words to describe who you want to be? Like I've said before, we're growing and we're evolving. All good things like optimum health and wellness will take hard work. But let's be honest, 5 minutes of walking once a week to start is not that much hard work. You got this. To know that your energy, your mind, your body, your spirit are healthy and well, it's just so worth it. And it's such a blissful place to be. All of these little small changes are what are going to make your lifestyle sustainable. I said it earlier, like when I work out, I talk to myself pretty tough, but I also talk to myself this way to kind of shut out my negative thoughts. When I'm working out, I like to feel the exercise, squeezing, burning, tightening, all of these wonderful sensations. I had a trainer that she used to say, love the burn. And we did. Working out and feeling these sensations is a really good time to focus on the benefits of the movement you're doing. So avoid getting distracted. A lot of us like inviting friends to work out, and that's great. It helps us hold each other accountable. But during your actual rep, just focus. Focus on what you're doing. Imagine your belly fat melting, with every ab count. Imagine your cellulite melting right off as you're squeezing your glutes tight on a deadlift. The micro focus mindset, because our brain and our body is like this amazing machine, will take our fitness routine to higher levels. I love these gems on the Tough Love podcast. They're my favorite. It's just like my little secrets that have helped me accomplish my goals along the way, because I've had obstacles and I've had to figure ways of being flexible with my workout, with my foods, with my daily life. Another little gem, since we're here, is that I also practice proper form throughout my day. I check myself when I'm washing the dishes. I keep my glutes tight. If I'm sitting at a computer, I try not to be hunched over. When I walk, I'm not just gliding, I'm walking with intention. Even when I'm out running, a lot of people are much faster runners than me because I grew up having asthma, and so I've learned to make sure my torso's tight and strong, right? It's protecting my lungs, it helps me breathe better. And if I'm going to be a slower runner, I work my arms in a certain way where I'm also getting like my love handles and the back of my arms are working out. Sometimes I'm doing shoulder presses with nothing in my hands, but I have that energy and my legs are not that fast, right? Because I'm also focusing on breathing well. These are calorie burners also. And keeping your torso tight and strong is practicing nature's natural corset. We don't need these waist snatchers that actually, if you look into them, they hinder your body's ability to build that muscle. We don't need a corset. We don't need waist trainers. We have a built-in waist trainer within our muscles. So also when I pick up my kids, I squat often. I do bench presses with them. And I try not to overdo it because I'm also mindful that I don't want to be too sore where the next day I can't pick them up. And so I have to listen to my body. If I overworked out, I make note of it so that I don't do that again. So being mindful. Want to live a healthier lifestyle but don't know where to start? Tired of fad diets that get you nowhere? Maybe you got to your goal, but you can't afford the expensive supplements. Reach your fitness goals, but still struggling with chronic health issues? I'm holistic lifestyle coach Gigi, founder of Cultura Sensual Enhanced Wellness. I created a personal health and wellness assessment you can't get anywhere else to help you reach optimum health and start living your best life. Click on the link, culturasensual.com, fill out the application at the end for your free consultation with me. This is your sign so that you can choose to start taking care of yourself. We're going to move on to the next relationship, emotionally healthy relationship with our food. Food is nourishing to our body. The food that we consume is either going to heal us or it's going to harm us. And we make that choice every single day with every single meal or every single thing that we put in our body. We won't go into on and what we breathe and all that. That was episode 2. So with this, we are consciously making this decision. It's like going back to a toxic relationship over and over and over every time we consume toxic food ingredients over and over. But we don't talk about it this way, and we should, because diet culture has deprived us from calories and certain foods. Majority of people who say they eat healthy are actually under eating. And so we go to the other extreme. I can't be extremely healthy. That's too little calories and that's a lot of salads. So we go to the other extreme where we overeat. We don't find a balance. Our problem isn't overeating. Our problem is overeating the wrong things. On my program, we have a foods to enjoy list. And I recommend to my clients, especially the first 2 weeks, to eat in abundance. Literally, eat from this list in abundance. To all the diet culture influencer idiots out there, show me your skincare routine, show me your beauty care products, show me your ingredients for your quote-unquote healthy foods. Because they are extreme in you have to eat this food and you have to drink this crap that is harming your freaking organs. And then they're meal prepping in plastic and they're consuming quote unquote health washed substances, claiming to be healthy supplements. Eating right is very, very important. But first and foremost, it's important to love the food we are eating. We need to appreciate and be grateful for the benefits that it's providing. For me, I like to eat dry dates when I'm almost full gestation with a baby. It helps make your uterus strong. It doesn't induce your labor. It helps your uterus be strong so that when your body is ready for labor, your uterus is strong to help assist on those contractions and in labor. I'm so mindful with that. I drink golden milk, not as often as I wish I did. Golden milk, even now, I can be so grateful when I'm talking about it because it gives me restful sleep and it reduces my inflammation so drastically. So for me, I'm super thankful for it. I know, I don't care. It freaking sounds corny, but I find joy. I find joy. And I invite you into my life. Not to say I don't have bad days or bad moods. I do. I know they would be much more frequent, though, and more intense if I didn't take care of my health and wellness. And so this is how I thank my food all the time. When I'm cooking, when I'm eating. Thank you for nourishing me and giving me life and energy in this moment. If we can't talk to our food this way, that's something else we can talk about in a later episode. Maybe in one where I talk about my nutrition and how I got to eating the way I do. thanking your food is a really good standard practice to have in order to building a healthy or positive relationship with our food. A lot of health companies are also influencing people. They're going for smoothies and shakes or tasty vitamins, but maybe their ingredients are pretty good ingredients, but they're also promoting very unhealthy habits. Some of them taste like junk food. Like, what the heck? How are we supposed to detox and not want junk food if we are feeding our bodies things supposedly healthy, but they taste like junk food? So yes, when that healthy product is not around and we crave that junk food, what are we going to do? Go eat that junk food. I'm not saying never give in to your urges. What I'm saying is build a better relationship with our food so that we can love our food that is healthy for what it's nourishing and what it's doing. And then when we decide to eat the unhealthy item, we can indulge in it. Yes, why not? We've been doing good. We treat our body good. Let's go indulge in this item. And I say this confidently because when you enjoy this food item and then you realize like, oh, this made me feel really sick. This other food item has been so healthy and so good to me. It's been tasting amazing. Why did I even indulge in this crappy item? You're going to go back to eating healthy. Sometimes we go from eating junk food every day, a couple times a day sometimes, and then we eat really good. A month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months go by, and then we indulge in it one time, and it makes us feel so sick. The next day, we're probably not going to eat it again. We're probably going to wait a little bit longer to eat it, and that's how we start eliminating these toxic foods. The more crap we give our body, the more it's going to crave it. Also, we'll learn to indulge in them in smaller quantities. So drinking a giant cup of coffee that has syrup pumps and all of these things in it that we probably drink all the time, I know I did. Now, if I want to indulge in it and the giant cup makes me sick, I'll have the smaller cup. And then I might not finish it. I'm the queen of putting my drinks in the refrigerator, and I'll sip it a couple times and then put it back in. Then I go about my day because my body's just not used to it. It's a little satisfaction to me to be able to taste it a little bit, because in reality, our body doesn't want that toxic food. Yes, it wants the taste of it, but it doesn't want the toxic feeling. It doesn't want what it makes our body feel, how it makes it feel, how it reacts. It doesn't want that. It just likes the taste of it. And so one of the tricks that I used to do when I first started my health journey is I would also cut up foods that were not on my food list. I would cut them up really small, and I would just eat a small piece and eat it very slowly. I used to be able to indulge in things and feel satisfied because I allowed my body to have it. I just had my little rules and guidelines on how I allowed myself to enjoy it. If I was training and eating extremely well and I craved certain foods, I did not tell myself, no, you cannot have this. I would write it down and say, you can have this on such and such day. And I'll talk more about that again in the episode about healthy eating, where sometimes I would go to my list on the day and look at my list and be like, I don't want any of it. And sometimes it was a different junk food, and sometimes I would just not even have the junk snack on that day because I just didn't really feel like it. I did this with the relationship ones too. I told myself, I'm going to be single at least for 6 months, even if I want to go back with them. And then 6 months came and I was like, I'm pretty good. I'm good. So it's good to set these guidelines for yourself and, hold yourself accountable, because your future self will thank you later. Health and wellness is not a one size fit all. It's like a relationship that we need to discover with ourselves. And that's probably going to be another episode also of the Tough Love podcast, where we discuss the health issues associated with fad diets and all of these supplements. Society plays a huge part on how we feel and how we look at the products that are available for us. For example, I went to a wellness fair and I did a limeade. Organic sugar cane is cooling, and in moderation, it's good for us. We need sugar to regulate, our glucose levels and things like that. And then also rock salt is really good. Salt is important for us because it has minerals that our body needs. It helps our body cells absorb hydration. And so I did a limeade with electrolytes. I had organic homegrown herbs in the limeade. And some people literally turned it down because they said they don't do salt, because they said they don't do sugar. And of course, I respect them. Nobody's going to force them. I'm definitely not going to force someone who doesn't want to eat something or drink something and force them. But the reason I'm talking about this is because that is what marketing is doing to us. We will keep eating synthetic things, fat-free, sugar-free, and it's all this crap that is causing us illness. It's causing us inflammation in our body. It's causing our glucose levels to be unregulated. It's causing all these harms to us, but we are pushing these fat-free diet foods and not educating people that it's the wrong salts and sugars. And so then we end up supplementing with pills instead of with our foods. And the reason this is important as well is because sometimes our body receives organic compounds better. It processes organic compounds better than synthetics. Certain organic compounds can go into our cells, whereas synthetics cannot. Sometimes we end up taking an extremely unhealthy amount of synthetic supplements that cause organ issues, organ failure, when all we have to do is educate ourselves. We don't even have to educate the masses, but educate ourselves to eat better. Question everything. I'm so proud of my kid, my oldest, where he's asking, why are certain things being made? Why are certain grocery stores selling certain products? And maybe society will not change, but the simple fact that he's asking these questions so that he can find better alternatives, that is my goal, because there is better alternatives. So again, marketing platforms, they make us think that diet and sugar-free means healthy. And honestly, diet and sugar-free to me means toxic chemicals. It's unnatural. And anything that's unnatural, that means that my body is not going to recognize it. It means that it's foreign and I don't need it. So again, let's switch the channel. Let's change our mindset. Let's get off this, socially acceptable channel, quote, like what the actual fuck, unquote, channel that I'm giving you. Now that I know, how do I go back? Let me ask you, did you know this about diet food and sugar-free and fat-free? So if you're here, you're my loved one. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for allowing me to give you a small glimpse of how my brain works, how I choose to make conscious decisions about my nutrition. It's a choice. To me, it's a choice. And I practice this every day, all the time, choosing better things, thinking about what they're going to provide me and choosing better things. So we can go back to loving food, especially if we start thinking about what this food is doing for us. And also that we may not be perfect, but we have to start somewhere. We have goals to meet. We have a higher version of ourselves, right? The decision maker. And that person is going to start consuming healthier foods that are compatible for our body type. Before we move on to the next relationship that is important in our life, one of the tips that I have, instead of immersing yourself online and trying to find all these meal plans and everything, I guess I'll give you 2 tips. The first one is eat seasonal and local organic foods. So nature is amazing. That if a plant or a vegetable or fruit, herb, whatever, grows in your local outside climate, the chances are that that is the type of food that is more compatible with your body type in that moment. And the reason I say this is because, again, nature is amazing. And so if you think about somewhere tropical, what grows there? Things like mangoes and pineapples, those are cooling foods. And so when we transport a pineapple or a mango to a cold climate environment and we're consuming that, we're cooling our body down in an already cool environment. And then we end up with dryness. We end up with, a lot of things. And so That's one of the tips. The other one is plan your meals around your vegetables and fruits. And so a lot of us sometimes are like, oh, I'm going to get this protein for dinner tonight. And then we think of the sides. Another very healthy thing that I like to do is buy local organic fruits and vegetables. And then I plan my protein around that. I plan my other legumes or whatever around that. And that is a really good way to get your digestive system, your metabolism going to the best of its capabilities. An emotionally healthy relationship with our breath means to me is knowing what breathing does for you. There's a lot of studies that show obviously it helps reduce stress, it promotes calmness, relaxation, it helps us focus, increase alertness, and reduce anger. I remember I used to get upset with my husband all the time when he would sigh. Like, I would think, even if we weren't arguing, if we were having a conversation and then he would sigh, I'd be like, what the heck? Is he frustrated with me? Is he upset? Am I talking too long? And even though probably the answer to all of them is yes, I do it too. But then I also learned in therapy that it's something that helps us release those emotions, the frustration or trying to calm down or whatever. And so I had to learn that we need those moments of release so that we can reset and continue. Sometimes I have to continuously not get upset when it happens because I forget or it still irritates me, right? It's hard to break some habits, but I like to remind myself, this helps or whatever. And sometimes he has to remind me if I got upset about it. And it's very similar to me. Sometimes I have to breathe if I'm dealing with a migraine, or which I don't get that often anymore, but if I did, or if I'm having aches and pains or, whatever. If that happens, then I have to remind myself, it sounds cliche, count to 10, take a deep breath, and then answer or whatever, continue the conversation, because it does help. Try it right now if you want to. Take a deep breath, see how you feel. Take note of how you feel in this moment. Then take a deep breath and acknowledge how you feel. Take notice of how you feel after that deep breath. Like I said, it sounds like corny or cliche, but sometimes our relationships are worth it. Keeping calm instead of having an explosive reaction, it's worth it. And so it goes back to being mindful. We have to practice it enough so that those are our new normals. Those are the things that we look to when we are in these situations. The more we practice them, the more normal they become to us. Taking deep breaths, making conscious decisions about our food, about our movement, about our self-care. Being appreciative of our breath, being grateful daily, I talked about it earlier, it helps regulate our nervous system. When our nervous system is not regulated, it puts us on that fight or flight response. If we're in fight or flight response, our body doesn't work the way it's intended to. And so we start having chronic issues and things like that. So breath helps us release those things, and being appreciative for our breath will help us release those things. Taking a deep breath, even being appreciative outside, looking at the flowers, looking at nature, watching the squirrels play. You know what else also causes our nervous system to stay in fight or flight now that we're talking about it? Junk food. Fight or flight damages our brain, it damages our organs. Our breath is very important. Not only does it help us relax, it helps us regulate our nervous system, but breath also nourishes and provides oxygen to every cell in our body. Our cells need it to stay alive. Once they do their job, they eliminate carbon dioxide. Literally, breathing is healing. Oxygen is healing. We need to appreciate those breaths. There's a really good YouTuber, Ralph Smart. I think his channel is called Infinite Waters. And he takes breaths and he gives really good advice. But when he takes this breath, it's so delightful and beautiful because he's like, breathe in this good ass prana. And so prana is the Sanskrit word for life force, energy. That's what we're doing when we're breathing in. We are energizing every cell in our body. We are nourishing every cell in our body. So next time you take a deep breath, just enjoy it and realize it. That's one of the reasons I named my business Cultura Sensual, because in my schooling, I learned about sensually loving your body, sensually loving the breath that you breathe. And culturally, I grew up in a Mexican household, but before that, for me, it was being indigenous, learning things from my grandmother with herbs in her garden. And I only learned a very, very small fraction of what she probably knew. And we didn't grow up in an indigenous family household. It actually wasn't until I moved to Arizona and we started taking drives back and forth that I looked into it. But anyways, the reason I'm saying this is because that's how I run my business. It's sensual and cultural practices so that we can learn to love ourselves, so we can learn to love our well-being and make it a priority. Because we cannot show up for people that we love if we are not even there to show up, if we're not even able to show up. So working on ourselves first, loving the air we breathe. All of these things, our food, being mindful with ourselves, our breath, it all helps us have an emotionally healthy relationship with our emotions. Everyone struggles with their emotions. It's not just a woman or emotional all the time thing. Everybody struggles with their emotions. And being Pride Month, and this is a disclaimer, we're going to talk about unaliving situations here because June is Pride Month. While I'm recording this, it's still June. This is airing in July, however. This month is to celebrate people of the LGBTQ plus community. There is so many people out there not being able to be true to ourselves. For a long time, it wasn't socially acceptable, and in some places it still isn't. Now, even with safe places where we can go and celebrate equality and just every different type of human being out there in this world, those places are being targeted. And the reason I'm acknowledging that is because, again, emotions are not just a woman thing. Men's mental health is important as well. June is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Men die by suicide 3 to 4 times more often than women. I think it's partially because boys don't cry, or all of the machismo responsibilities that they carry on their shoulders. I refuse to tell my kids boys don't cry. I have 3 sons. I'm not going to tell them that. They can express their emotions. This mentality of man up has raised a generation of having emotionally unhealthy states of minds. And the sad part is that these numbers increase. The frequency increases in those over the age of 65. So if I had to pick one thing about what I like to do when I help others grow into a higher version of themselves, is the emotional, healthy healing part. That transformation from helpless to hopeful is such an honor for me to witness. And I don't want to talk about it too much because these are other people's emotional relationships that come to mind, but that is one of the things that I really enjoy watching. Healing from emotional and mental traumas looks different for everybody. There's not ever any two alike. No journey is ever two alike when it comes to emotional and mental traumas. Also, we should know that we are not alone. There are others battling similar issues. There are others, they have already overcame those hardships. And so sometimes we need to reach out to our communities so that we can talk to similar individuals. I remember my father battling some addictions, and I thought I went through those situations when I was a child because I needed to know what to not accept into my life and relationships, and I did. There was certain characteristics boyfriend showed, I would end it before it got bad. And so that definitely helped me. But then I remember a loved one was going through a similar situation where their parent was in a rehab, and then now they were living in the aftercare home after rehab. And they were just falling apart in my vehicle. And I remember talking to them and hugging them. And in that moment, I realized, like, this is why I went through everything I had gone through with my father. Because, again, like I said, I'm an optimist and I refuse to let negativity win. And so this was my time where I realized, this is why. How was I going to be there for my loved one? How could I relate to them, or they relate to knowing it can get better if I hadn't gone through my situation? Being able to see a parent heal themselves, my loved one was able to experience that and see their parent heal themselves. And now their parent is a freaking amazing person. So my advice is, sit with your emotions, feel them. Where are they coming from? And where have they brought us? I know that's super scary to think about, right? We aren't used to it, to have to think about a level of hurt that we have maybe pushed it down and didn't want to feel it or think about it. We pushed it down literally for so long that the thought of actually having to feel it or feel them right now may be unbearable. Makes you a little uncomfortable, but speak or talk to a professional, medical or clinical, to have you supported on this healing journey. We were taught to stay calm. Don't overreact. I told you, I was told numerous times growing up as a child, oh, you're so emotional. But guess what? When life gives us things that are just so emotionally unbearable, how could we possibly not scream or cry? How could we not let a big yell or a big grunt in frustration? Ugh! Emotions are meant to be felt and released. Again, we're doing the opposite of what our bodies were designed to do. Is it really starting to make sense now? The standard lifestyle, the standard diet, the standard way to deal with emotional and mental health. It's making us sick and unwell in the first place. I shared a post last week. Just because it's common doesn't make it normal. So if you're new here, I talked about it earlier, but I use herbs and essential oils, plants. They all have chemical structures. They react with our body chemistry, quick and simple science. Some of the essential oils that I recommend for emotions are like citrus oils are uplifting. They have uplifting properties. Rooting oils, so grounding oils, they promote calm and steady focus. And then floral oils, they promote feelings of safety. If you don't have essential oils, try peeling a citrus fruit. You can even boil the peel and it'll release the aroma in your home. The same with rooting or floral oils. If it's something you have outside that makes you feel calm, rub your hands on it, smell it, put your hands in the dirt, put your bare feet on the ground. There's science behind these things. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode. So let's make it a priority to take care of our emotional and mental health. Again, emotions are directly connected to our organs. I've had many classes on this for years, and one of the quotes on a published research that I'm going to link in the description, it says that in the study, anger was related to the liver, happiness to the heart, thoughtfulness to the heart and the spleen, sadness to the heart and lungs, fear to the kidneys, heart, liver, and gallbladder, surprise to the heart and the gallbladder, and then anxiety to the heart and the lungs. Do you ever think about when you get some very sad, overwhelming news? You hold your chest, you have to catch your breath. Sadness to the heart and the lungs. People who are angry all the time, that causes liver issues. We can go on and on because I love geeking out. I love this topic. I love learning how the human body works with nature. Like, it's literally the most perfect design. So we'll probably leave that to a different episode. Now that we talked about basically the relationships with ourselves, mind, body, spirit, we're going to talk about our relationship with our loved ones. So personal relationships with our partners, our family, parents, friendships, this is where learning to love ourselves first comes into play. It has helped me set boundaries. Even at work, I remember a boss trying to yell at me at the copy room, and it was surrounded by cubicles. All I had to say is like, I understand you're my boss. You need to tell me what to do. Please do not raise your voice and tone at me. I would not disrespect you like that, so don't do it to me. It was the last time she talked to me like that. At a colleague, they constantly bumped heads and they constantly yelled at each other. It was crazy, but I don't have the energy like that or the time. It's not something that I open myself up to because it's not beneficial to me. It's actually bad for me to, engage in those arguments. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I started changing this mentality, just not wanting to engage in this craziness. Maybe it's because I was the complete opposite growing up. I was completely confrontational and it was just an unhealthy place to be. So this is very important for my growth and where I see myself. These are decisions the higher version of myself would be making, is forgiving people, but also not letting myself forget or repeat the same mistake. Do I want them around me? Fool me once, shame on you. So again, my energy is very important. I like giving my energy to my husband, to my children. All this to say that if I take my energy from my loved ones, like my husband and my kids, to give them to you, that means I value your love and your friendship. The most valuable thing to me is my time and energy. That's what I have to give. That is the most valuable thing. And I don't like it when it's wasted or taken for granted. I respect the people in my relationships the same way. I respect their time. I respect their energy. I respect their feelings and their emotions. I'm a very strong and opinionated person, so I expect in my relationships the same. I should be able to tell you how I feel about certain situations and things like that. With my partner, with my husband, my relationship has been very unique. We've been very honest. We made it clear from the very beginning. We expected open communication. A lot of our friends would give us certain recommendations that at the time didn't really work for us. But I've always kind of been that type of person that I will receive the information you're giving me. Sometimes I test it. Even if I don't agree with it, I like to test it because that's just who I am. I'm into proving things right or wrong if I can. I don't obsess over it if I can't, but I like to test it to either tell you, oh my gosh, I tried it, it worked great, or hey, I did try it and it just wasn't for me. And a lot of people can't receive that either well because, again, society. I don't know if everybody would agree with this, but I sound like a know-it-all sometimes because I try it all. You tell me something and more than likely I'm going to try it. Again, it's because I want to know if it works for me or not. And then I like to relay the information so that people have another case basically to compare it with. Right? I geek out all the time. Some of the recommendations people would give me in the beginning that I did do was let him take care of me. Switch the masculine in me to feminine. I was used to, being by myself, independent, getting my shit done, working out, doing all these things that when he stepped into my life and he wanted to do certain things for me, it was really hard for me to turn those things off. And so I followed those recommendations. After 10 years into our relationship, we've taken more traditional roles and even further than just switching my masculine to feminine. And that's just where we decided to go instead of what society wanted us to do. It goes back to holding ourselves accountable and being wise enough to know that we have grown, to know we have evolved. We are parents now. We are raising little humans, and being wise enough to implement what we have learned from our peers. Even if we didn't follow that advice 10 years ago, we remember, and if something's not working out now, we are wise enough to start making those changes. And sometimes it's a little battle. Sometimes it takes a little bit more discussions or arguments to get us there. But that's one of the things that I am very, very grateful for, is having someone who is willing to go down the trenches with me. All right, let's get together and figure this out. Having open communication, like I said, is super important. Being blunt and honest. How are we going to know these things are bothering us if we don't talk about it? When we were dating, We talked about expectations with financials and stuff, for example. But making those decisions when we met, having those conversations when we met, really helped us know if we were going to continue to be compatible with each other. It helped us look into the future way back then, having those conversations. So we expect open communication. Like I said, if we don't ask each other, how can we know? We might just assume. We aren't perfect, but we both really work on it. We have gone to therapy. We have done exercises about the foundation of our home. And that one was a really fun one because even when we felt like maybe we didn't appreciate or feel appreciation from the other one as much as we wanted, when we did that exercise, we realized like, oh my gosh, we tell each other how much we appreciate each other, like an extremely huge amount of times every single day. And our therapist was like, okay, so you guys clearly don't have a problem. We were just so used to being that appreciative. And also at the same time, we had a lot of more responsibilities. We don't let anybody watch our kids. So we don't have date nights. We have to put the kids to bed and then forge a date night at home. We sit outside, we do a bonfire, we watch our shows, we order takeout, we do the things that we can. And it wasn't just us two anymore like it was in California. And so our therapist really helped us see that we do value each other so much, and we do tell each other how grateful we are for each other, and all of these things that really helped us open our eyes and realize, okay, we're in the right path. We are just a little bit overwhelmed right now. It also helped us be there for each other more. I am a big talker. I talk your ear off. Hence having a podcast now. I just love freaking talking. And my husband sometimes wants to address something I'm talking about, but if I talk for a good 3 to 5 minutes straight, there's no way he's going to be able to address every single thing that I literally just talked about. And what if he interrupts me? I might get upset. So he's in a lose-lose situation. One of the things that our therapist also recommended is that if there was something I needed to bring up to my husband, I should write it down. Sometimes I do, sometimes we forget, and then we have to remind each other if we can't communicate the best at the moment, regardless. Whatever situation, whatever the reason, the kids are needing more attention, so we can't talk in that moment. So I would write it down, give him the note, we would agree on a time. He would then have enough time to write his thoughts and points on the back of the piece of paper. And then at the time we decided to meet, after putting the kids down, we would then talk about this note. The purpose of this exercise is a couple of things. Number one, we talk about what I wanted to bring up in the first place, right? So my issue, my feelings get addressed. Then we flip the page around and we talk about what came up to him, what thoughts, feelings, whatever, and we talk about that. And so his feelings are addressed as well. We have taken this step a little further in a way because number one, when we were engaged before we got married through the church, we did an engagement encounter and we did a lot of dialogue, writing things to each other, answering questions, and then reading what we wrote. And so when we did that, every time we had to read each other's papers or each other's notebooks, we were instructed to read it once and feel the feelings for ourselves, right? If we got offended, if something hurt, whatever. And then we had to read it again a second time, but this time with our partner in mind. So what were they trying to tell us? What were their feelings? Why are they bringing this up? And then we would talk about it. And we kind of implement that with what our therapist suggested in writing the notes. And it's also easy for us to set appointments because, like I said, all good things take hard work. And so another thing that my husband and I do is that every single day at 7:30 p.m., our smart device sends an alarm to us that reminds us to read a book. We used to read a book that was particular to our relationship and certain behavioral things. And maybe I can disclose in another episode once I get the permission from my husband to talk more about how our relationship started and a lot of the decisions we made together and to end up where we are now. But anyways, we were reading this book so that we can fix certain behavioral things we were experiencing together as a couple. And when we finished that book, part of the exercises in that book suggest to have daily check-ins where we do a rose, bud, and thorn. So the rose means something we were thankful or grateful for the day. The bud means something we were excited for that was coming. And the thorn was what was a challenge that day. And if we skip a few days because we're not home or we're traveling or something's going on, then we'll check in for the week or whatever. That is something that we do together as a family. But if one of us gave each other a note, then we know we're meeting at 7:30 p.m. So let's get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is us reflecting on doing better, wanting to do better, having a partner that is willing to work on it, and choosing our battles. Sometimes, yes, dirty laundry on the floor next to the hamper where the dirty laundry would go would set me off. But guess what? Who cares? Is that something I want to fight over? No. I'm glad my husband's home from work. I'm not going to go nag him about the socks that he left 2 nights before or the night before, right? Because whatever. I'll take care of it. And also, when we take care of our bodies, mind, health, nutrition, all of these things, then we should be in a better mood that it's okay to see that laundry on the floor. We might have the energy because we've been nourishing our bodies to pick up the dirty laundry off the floor. And I think that's also one of the reasons some of us let those things get to us, where we do pick a fight over dirty laundry or a messy kitchen or whatever, because we're not feeling good. We're not in the best of moods and things like that. And just being grateful for everything he does do and the way he takes care of us and his part of it. Remembering we are in this together, reminding each other of our goals, and taking what we each bring to the table seriously. We've talked about the type of parents we wanted to be. We've talked about, the type of partner we wanted to be. We've talked about health goals for ourselves, where we want our physical health to be, our emotional health. And when either one of us is not feeling their best, we let it be known to each other so that we can be there for each other. And again, we are not perfect. We do have our arguments. We do have our moments of like, oh my gosh, this is irritating or whatever. But the fact that we work on it so passionately, that makes it worth it. That makes it feel like, okay, I've got someone with me, because I think all of us can relate, or a lot of us can relate, being in a relationship with someone or even a friendship or whatever, where we try it all. We're the givers and givers and givers, the nurturers, and the other person doesn't put their part, and we're mourning this friendship when in reality is like, well, what the heck? They don't care about my feelings. They don't care what I went through to be there for them. And in this moment, they can't be there for me then, or they can't work on it with me, or they can't have a conversation like, hey, to at least even tell me where I've gone wrong, so that I can correct myself. If I care about them, I will. Even if I don't care about them, if it's something that will make me a better person, I will consider it and even change who I am for certain things, because I believe in continuing to evolve. And that's just my mindset that I have established with myself. And so a lot of us don't like criticism, but living with someone, spending every day with them, there will be some issues. We come from different walks of life. We grew up in different states and different countries even, because I was partially raised in Tijuana, Mexico, and different cultures. So it isn't logical or reasonable to think it wouldn't require hard work. The right partner will be worth it. The right partner will make an effort themselves. The right partner will fill your cup. You got them and they got you. Marriage is a happily ever after, but our happily ever after is having a partner that is willing to work on it in the difficult times. That is what makes it all worth it. So with a relationship with a partner, my advice is be yourself from the beginning. Pretending to be someone else, it wears off. It'll wear off in a month, in a year, 10 years, and then eventually they'll get tired. You can fool them into loving that pretend person, but then when you stop pretending, they won't recognize you. It wastes their time and it'll waste your time. Precious time, where if you're honest, the right type of people will love you. As parents, we keep in mind our children. They're always watching. So if we disagree in front of our children, when we come to agree or apologize to one another, we make sure that the kids are in the same room. We dialogue our conversation again in front of the kids. if they were not in the same room. They need to see how we came to a resolution, not just witness our argument. Again, it's kind of corny, but guess what? Just the other day, my husband was traveling and he came home. He says, "Go to the room and rest." As I'm walking to the room, he goes, "I'm going to go with you so I can give you a hug." We were in front of the boys. And I stopped in the middle of the living room and I said, "Just give me a hug here." I turn around and we are hugging in the middle of the living room. And our oldest goes, I mean, we were hugging for a long time. So maybe after a good 30 seconds, he goes, "I really like it when you guys hug." Because those are the things our kids need to witness, right? Again, thinking some of these things are a little cliche or ridiculous, let me just say, congratulations. Those are the feelings of your regularly scheduled programming, courtesy of social expectations. So again, come to my channel, a higher vibration, and like I said earlier, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you haven't practiced these things before, you haven't felt this good before. And if you have, you must know what I'm talking about here. No fucks given. I know I'm kind, I know I'm loving, but I respect my boundaries and I hold myself accountable for it all. We're shaping our children for the future, the type of individuals they will become, the type of relationship they will want to have with us. As children, they'll grow up. And as a mother of 3 sons, I think about it a lot. I want to build a relationship where they want to bring their family over to spend time with us for the holidays. And a way I think I'm going to accomplish this, I could be wrong, so any tips are highly welcomed, is by making my home a safe place. And I try to do this by giving them mutual respect. I grew up where we don't talk back. When they talk back, I acknowledge their feelings. I help them decide better ways to express their feelings. I don't just allow it to continue if they yelled at me and just were totally out of line, but I remind them that there's better ways. And how long do I have to do this? Because kids react all the time, right? They constantly need the reminder. So I do this forever. As long as they do it, I do it. Why do I have to put them in a time frame? We are not perfect adults. Nobody reminds us. We shouldn't put them on a time frame because are we perfect adults? Do we not need any reminders when our emotions are overwhelming? I teach my children that their voice matters in little ways. If they say stop tickling, I stop tickling. If they say give me privacy in their bedroom, I give them privacy. If they're rude and they slam the door, you bet I'm in there telling them you don't slam the door, whatever. But if they're not rude about it, go ahead. Those are the little ways that I try to make it safe at home. I apologize when I raise my voice. I remind them, like, I'm working on it, but I remind them, you guys, I'm really working on not raising my voice. But if you guys are not listening, I'm getting really close to losing my shit. And they start doing it. They need to know that I'm human and I'm gonna freaking screw up too. Because when they screw up, I don't want them to be super down on themselves. I want them to be able to self-reflect and figure out better ways, healthier ways to channel their feelings and their emotions and know that sometimes we can have a grunt in frustration. Sometimes we can have a really good cry, and boys don't cry is not a thing. You let it out because it hurts. Things hurt. Things are sad sometimes. Things to them are not fair, and we have to acknowledge that things may not seem fair, and we're sorry that they feel that way. If I want them to not give up, then they have to see my imperfections too, and they have to see me not giving up. So yes, I go from yelling to warning them before I yell instead, and that's my way that I'm working on not being a yeller. I'm not always not yelling, but less yelling is less yelling. And so if you didn't catch that, that is how I make an emotionally healthy relationship with my children. And I'm a new parent. You know, my oldest is going to be 6 in September. So we're still pretty new at this. And every day is new because every day they're getting older and every day is a new thing. And we're new at this and we don't have this giant community of family and friends where we just can parent together and, you know, learn from each other or things like that. So I'm looking out to my community and my listeners and any helpful tips. We follow a lot of accounts. We talk a lot to their doctors. We recently pulled them out of school to kind of little homeschool, but even my oldest is too young to actually be in school. So we kind of just pumped the brakes on that and slowed down. I feel like it was a little too much too fast. I could tell their little spirits weren't the happiest in some situations. And so thankfully, I'm able to be at home mom still. And so I'm teaching them at home like we were, and we're learning a lot. So, anyways, that was my relationship with my kids. But also, I learned how to be a parent by watching my mother. I learned how to be who I am as a parent because of my mother. I remember my mother working really long hours as a single mother. I am so grateful to be at home with my kids. And so I think that shapes me on just loving and caring for my kids more. I remember being little and my mom just hugging me and telling me she loved me. And in times she would apologize for not telling me enough. And my sister and I can agree we felt loved by her so much. And so we love and hug our kids now even more than my mom hugged and kissed us, you know? So that's a way that I learned to be a parent for my mother. And a lot of things in my childhood shape my thoughts, who I want to be as a mother. My mother is the most important person in my lifetime. There's not enough time to discuss, you know, maybe a full episode will be dedicated to her one day because she's the most freaking chingona woman in the universe. There's a word in our language where berraca. She's a freaking berraca, and she's just a badass person. She's so amazing. Her physical and her spiritual, her energy, just who she is as a being. There's just not enough words to describe the power of this lady's essence. And I work really hard on validating my mother's feelings. It's not always easy because the way I word things, the way I'm passionate about things sometimes come off too strong. And when you're somebody else's mother, she's my mother, it can be very difficult. So I try to be careful with those things. And I will always make sure she knows I care about how she feels, whether I contributed to those feelings or not. She might not agree, but I work really, really hard on this. And the reason I say she might not agree is because, of course, we still bump heads. But in my mind, I feel like it could be so much worse. If I'm not mindful about our relationship and intentional about the way we spend time together, I feel like it could be worse. And it's so important for me to have a positive relationship with my mother because she has sacrificed and done so much for us that I want her to know that everything has been worth it. And we know how much she has worked for us. I will talk about a little situation that I experienced with my mother. I was talking to her about some trauma that I have growing up. My sister didn't like playing with me, and my dad constantly reminded her, hey, she's your sister. You need to put her first, blah, blah, blah. Well, now my children, they go and have play dates. And of course, I tell them, you know, put your brother first, make sure you include him and things like that. And I'll continue to do that with the baby as well. And who knows, maybe I'm causing some trauma on my own children, forcing them to always watch out for each other. But I was telling my mom, it's going to be my children's responsibility when they are adults for them to heal. The same way that I'm learning to heal from my traumas. I'm an adult, and anything that happened to me, any situation, any smack of the hand or whatever, if any of it caused me trauma, I'm an adult and I can seek healing for myself. And I think, you know, that was kind of in a way, unintentionally, weight lifted off my mother's shoulders. The look on her face was just kind of a sense of relief. I don't know if she had things that were weighing heavy on her, but me speaking this way to her about my children, teaching them that there's resources and it's okay to speak about it and it's okay to get help, I think really helped my mother realized that, she's not responsible for anything that happened to me as a child with her, that she worked so much. And she's not responsible for any of the trauma that I may have had growing up, right? We're all doing life for the first time, and we have to be easy on our loved ones. We need to be easy on our parents. So now let's talk about having emotionally healthy relationships with our family and friends. Social media has made it kind of easy to keep in touch. However, there's more distance on the quality of how we keep in touch with our loved ones. Some don't have social media or are not as active, and so we don't check in on those family and friends. We don't know when our loved ones are dealing with stressful situations because either they're not posting or we only check their social media. They post happy stuff. They don't really post stressful moments. And so we tend to neglect the quality of our friendships. The distance has been extra hard for me because I've moved a lot. And so I've moved to San Jose to go to university. Then I moved back to San Diego. Then I moved to Arizona to pursue career and a different lifestyle with the partner I was at the time. And, made some friendships there. And then now I live in Oregon. So my friendships, the quality friendships that I have built, are scattered in different cities and different states. Growing up, we all have our families, and so we kind of grow apart. And social media, even though it can help us be in touch with a lot more family members, the quality of those friendships are not the same as if we were making time to talk to them on the phone or making time to spend time with them because we wanted to catch up and get to know how their lives are going. And so one of the things that's also hard for me is that I can't experience life together with my family and my friendships. We are married, we're having kids, our kids are growing up, and we're just experiencing it through social media, which I love because we can't be close, but it's also sad for me for the distance. Um, some of our friendships and family, they do make an effort. They'll make an effort to comment, to like, to send a message. They'll make an effort to call or text and check in on how we're doing. If I'm in the same city or state, they'll make an effort to meet me. And I do that for them as well. That's how I love and nourish my relationships. I am the person who's there for you. I am the person who's going to take a last minute trip to go visit you. It's a little bit more difficult now with children, but in my spirit, I am still that person. I will still pick up the phone call. I will still make things happen for my friendships. I have to say, if we don't make an effort, if I don't make an effort for my friendships, if my friendships don't make an effort to be in a relationship with me, we can't expect to stay close if we don't make an effort. With some relationships, we might not have to. With some relationships, when we do see them, it feels like time didn't pass by. But at the same time, we are still not there for them. They're still not there for us when it really matters. We hear the stories, at least I'll hear some stories after the fact, after they were battling with something. And so for me, because I love so dearly and so deeply, it's sad for me that I can't be there for my friends and relationships the way that I would like to be there. So that's something that I have to forgive myself for and come in terms with, that this is where I'm at. And of course, my children, my family here fills my cup enough. But when I do think about those friends, I do think about how I'm missing out and seeing them build their families. Family and friends alike will make the effort to get to talk to you, to send you a card, things like that. And so that is also a realization that I am in the journey and will forever be in this journey, is figuring out who to give my energy to. And before I gave it more freely, but now because I just want to give it to my kids and my husband, I do start noticing these things, and I should be more mindful about my friendships. I feel like I was, but I've shifted to a different chapter that I think I need to take a closer look at the relationships that I am allowing into my life. And, sometimes distance, like being close, is also not even a plus because some relationships are still not the best living close together. I feel like distance has helped my mom and I, you know, be able to appreciate each other when we talk to each other. And we talk to each other almost every day, but it's very different than if I was there constantly getting on her nerves, with my opinions and my passion and whatever. Sometimes distance betters some relationships. So be wise and continue to do what is right for you and your relationships. So I try to be wise and continue to what is right for myself and my relationships. Building strong relationships with my family and my friends, like staying connected, is a two-person effort. We can have our moments. So when we're there for our friends or our cousin, we need to make sure that we are there for them. Sometimes we have to recognize that we can't be there for our own mental health. If helping someone is going to cause us more damage, I may have talked about it earlier, then that's a good time to step away and not force ourselves to be there for them. But if you're in a good place, this is why we're working on ourselves first, so that we can be there for those who matter. Sometimes strangers can be closer than some lifelong friends. I've made the change. I've challenged myself to stop being so available, to value my time. I talked about it earlier. So I've made the change. I've challenged myself for a little while now that I need to stop being so available and value my time. I don't give expecting to receive, but I am mindful of the times that I've needed support and the relationship who have showed up, who have made an effort, and then the relationships who are not making an effort. And it hurts. It hurts to think that certain relationships that I thought would be there are not. But that's okay. It's okay to free my energy. Part of my journey is noticing where I want my energy to go. And I'll share a really cool video I saw about this lady. I don't remember her name, but she explained it really good. So some of the qualities I look for in my friendships are some things that I know I can give as well. Honesty. I really want and need friends that are gonna check me. Tell me, what the fuck are you doing? I'm worried about you when I'm doing things that are not part of my character. We tend to mourn someone's life. We say, I wish I could have, I wish I would have. But then we don't do it to the people that are here on earth with us. We hold our tongue. We want to be politically correct. So that's one of the things. I want to attract the people that we can have straight up passionate conversations and be okay. Know that this is normal. In order for us to make progress and change, we can have conversations like this. I want my people, including the podcast audience, to hold me accountable, to care enough about me to tell me when I'm wrong or when I'm not going the right path or whatever. We're so fragile to this concept. My best friendships have been those who have been real and honest with me, encouraging me to keep being different. So those of you who are returning to my podcast, I know it's not pretty, but the feedback has been great. The realization that these are things that you didn't know you needed to hear. And I have lost some great friendships as well, or what I considered great friendships, by being a tough lover. Calling out toxic boyfriends. Why would I watch my friend be hurt? Yes, they're going to do whatever they want, but they could still hear me or tell me to fuck off. So some of the things that really get me, and I'm working on it because it shouldn't affect me the way it does, is like, for example, I've been doing the health and fitness lifestyle for about 14 years now, maybe 15, almost 15. You can imagine the amount of DMs or text messages asking my advice. How can I get from point A to B? And when I tell them, they're like, oh no, I can't do that. Or they ask me, how did I get it? And then they don't like my answer. Hey, would you eat this? And I say no. And then they get upset. They invite me to know about their nutrition and workout routine. But like when I notice and comment on a post, it's a horrible thing because all of a sudden, why am I giving unsolicited advice? And so in part of my journey where I'm at right now, it's like, whatever, get the fuck out of here. and I began charging for my time. That's me valuing my time and my energy. I've had fair weather friendships where they like to party, but when I was going through some things with my family, they were not there for me. I called them out, stopped being their friend. They got upset, started going around saying I'm such a horrible person. And it's like, no, I just realized I could be there for you. We could party together. And after years of friendship, when I needed a friend that I thought I could count on you to support or just hear me vent, you weren't available. And I chose that wasn't a place where I wanted to be. That's not a friendship I wanted to keep. Sometimes fair weather friends, they need something. They're in your messages asking for help. But when you need something in return, they're missing. This podcast, for example, certain people being silent. Launching my wellness company, certain people being silent. But the certain people that are being silent that I am sad about in the 14 years that I've been doing health and wellness have been in my messages multiple times, not just one time, not just 2 times. And so tell me I'm not going to reflect on that and see that I'm not being supported on a podcast or on my wellness company when I have been their crutch. Now, if they're not where they wanted to be, it's not because of lack of my trying or the lack of me supporting or the lack of me giving information. They just haven't done it. And that's their journey. It's none of my business. But that is how I have shifted my mindset to my fair weather friends. And it gets me the most because I often will still be there for them. I'm screwed up. And then I'm hard on myself when they let me down again. But what gets me through it is knowing that we're all going through something, remembering when they have been there for me. And again, learning not to spend my energy there too much if the bond has been severed. It is the good in ourselves that we expect to see in someone else, but we can leave that to another episode maybe. Emotionally healthy relationships with family and friends means letting go of ones that don't serve us. Therapists, essential oils, meditation, talking to a friend, it can help us get through these heartbreaks because they are heartbreaks. Letting go of relationships that don't serve you can be a heartbreak. I don't ghost people. It messes with my closure. So I let them know I'm ending this friendship. I don't talk bad about people I don't get along with anymore. It just makes them live rent-free in my mind. I have too much going on for that. A level of so much peace to achieve, and that just doesn't fit in my mind. So, yes, emotionally healthy relationships means you have to check in. Send them good intentions, positive vibes. So, with all relationships that I talked about today, set your boundaries with yourself. Remember your goals and characteristics. With your body, don't overdo it. Remove negative thoughts. It's not a fail, it's a lesson, and keep going. With our eating and movement, nourishing and strengthening. And with that good ass prana, breathing in and being grateful for being able to take another breath of fresh air. So before the episode is over, write down some mantras, just things you're going to repeat on a daily basis. Thank you, self, for waking up today. Thank you, nature, for the air we breathe. Thank your food as you cook it. When you add nourishing spices and healing herbs, we know the benefits of the food, so thank them. Say a mantra or a prayer for our loved ones. We're all going through something. We all go through emotions and overwhelm. And let's send positive energy to our loved ones. Praying for people I've had a falling out with, that's one of the things that I've done for a very long time now. Maybe I'm not done healing fully, but also my heart breaks when I let go of relationships. And so my loyalty is still there. One of the things a mentor of mine said many years ago, it was at a church Bible group. She had said something about friends being like trees. And I think this can relate for all relationships. And I had to send her a message to send it to me because I would have butchered it. It basically says that some friendships and relationships are like the leaves on a tree. They come and go with the season, right? So we have some relationships that come and go. They come for a little while, they serve their purpose, and then they're gone, and that's okay. We need to learn to let go of those. Some friendships and relationships can be like the branches. They're there until things become too much to handle. Ouch. That is where it hurts. And your friends and relationships that are like the roots of the tree, those are the ones that are there no matter what. No matter what. And I know I have a short list of those friends, but I like the list. So remember to forgive yourself, love yourself, be patient when you're becoming someone you've never been before. I really hope that you enjoyed the Emotionally Healthy Relationship series. And also, when I recorded this, I kind of went on a 2-hour rant, and that is why I broke it up into different episodes. But now you can also listen to the full, complete audio version on any one of the podcast platforms, or you can listen to all parts. I personally like the way it flows all together, but it's up to you. It is there for you. Thank you so much again for joining me. Until next time. Send in your questions or messages. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe so that you don't miss new episodes on Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm Gigi. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Tough Love Podcast with Essential Gigi. This will be the realest shit you're gonna hear. Bye.